1 in 8 adults and 1 in 6 children do suffer from food insecurity. If you're hungry, you just aren't at your best attention-wise, you're not ready to learn, and so having that proper nutrition and having it available from a trusted source, it's so important to have it right here so that kids can progress in their learning.
No child should ever have to learn hungry. We're going to make sure that every single child in our 9 states doesn't have to sit in school and wonder where their next meal is going to come from.
We know that this food pantry is going to reach more than just our Olmsted families. It reaches out to the community, it reaches out to the district to truly reach all.
We had 6 school pantries when I started 9 years ago, and it was a pilot program. Today we have 183, and we literally could not do it without the support of folks like Hy-Vee.
We know that this is having such a positive impact on our community. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you.
Getting the right nutrition is essential to achieving and maintaining good health. Yet accessing balanced meals that also support health challenges and fulfill personal tastes is not always as easy as it should be. At Mom's Meals, our passion is to provide nourishment and deliver wholesome meals to the homes of those who need better nutrition to support their health and wellness, no matter where they live. It's the reason we've built our business from our own personal roots, caring for our clients as we do our own family and loved ones. Our menus are designed by professional chefs and registered dietitians to taste great and support the nutritional needs of common health conditions. Clients get to choose every meal, every order. Meals are delivered to any address, no matter how remote. Simply place your order, receive your delivery, heat, and enjoy. To learn more or view the wide variety of refrigerated meals available, visit momsmeals.com.
Hi, I'm Lisa Rossi from the Business Record. Welcome to the Iowa Stops Hunger podcast, an ongoing initiative to raise awareness about food insecurity here in Iowa and to spotlight some of the folks who are here to help. I want to thank our sponsors, Hy-Vee and Mom's Meals. Today we're going to hear from Zuli Garcia, founder and chief executive officer of Knock and Drop Iowa. Welcome, Zuli.
Thank you.
So I'm so excited to have this conversation. I want to start and just tell me a little bit about the Global Neighbors Multicultural Welcome Pantry, when it opened, what it does. Just tell us a little bit about it.
So Global Neighbors Multicultural Food Pantry is a space where many community members, neighbors from the local area will be able to attend. It's going to have different foods. It actually opened on February 9th at 11 a.m. And we are open Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is an initiative and support from Global Neighbors, which is part of Polk County and Polk County Supervisors, Polk County Board of Supervisors.
So tell me about who is using it and how many people have used it so far.
Well, the first week we were shocked, to be honest with you. We had 400 households that came through. And we are seeing neighbors from all over the place. I mean, we have seniors, we have families that, have children, we have hardworking individuals that are trying to make ends meet. You have all kinds of people from all over the place that are visiting our food pantry.
And how often can they get the food?
Well, we follow the guidelines set by our partners, which is DMARC and Food Bank of Iowa. So they can attend our food pantry once a month for a full service, but then they can go to another DMARC affiliated pantry for a repeat service if they are still in need. However, we receive a lot of rescue, and the rescue comes from a lot of partners that we work with. And so individuals can come in on a daily basis if food rescue is available under the anytime food. And so we do have a lot of food rescue that comes to us, and we're able to support those individuals that are still in need.
So this is a multicultural welcome pantry. Can you tell me a little bit about the type of foods that are offered here?
Yes. So you will see we are still working on it with DMARC, but right now you will see that we have some Afghan, I apologize, some halal meat, and actually it's halal chicken. We are able to provide that. We have, the jasmine rice, we have the beans, we have the maseca. And if some of you don't know what maseca is used for, it's to make tamales, pupusas, tortillas. And so we have a lot of different stuff. We are actually working on other things to be able to add, for the African community, for the Asian community, some of the greens that they're looking for. And so that is coming this summer because we are actually talking to other partners to see how we can provide some of that fresh produce that they're looking for.
And why is it important to have multicultural food options for people? What does that mean for people?
That is a welcoming space. And that I feel that is what it means to people, is that when you come to a food pantry, you are treated with respect and understanding of what you're needing. And just because you're in need does not mean that this is what you should eat because you're hungry. We should look at it as how can we treat others with dignity and respect? And it starts with food. Because if you have the foods that they need, then you're treating them with that love and respect that they're looking for in a time of need. And so that is really what we're all working for, is making sure that individuals that are going through these hard times feel like this pantry and others are welcoming to them by having what they are looking for in their household.
What sort of things have you heard from people? This is the only pantry of its kind in our area, right?
At the moment, yes, other pantries have added things to their pantries to be able to support others. I will tell you that we were the first ones to have maseca. We are also the first ones, and understand that Knock and Drop Iowa started March 24th of 2020. So we've been doing this already for 6 years. But we were the ones that started adding maseca. We started adding leche nido, making sure that families feel like this is a place where they have what we need. And so individuals are using it to make sure that they feel like it's a welcoming place. And just yesterday, we had 2 seniors that came by, and they were very thankful for what we had on our shelves under the Anytime section and be able to do the full service there. We also had another individual that had her vehicle broken down. And so she did not know what she was going to expect. But walking in there, she said she felt like there was respect, there was a treatment of fairness, and that she was receiving what she needed, what she wanted from home. They don't want to take extra things that they don't need, and they're very honest. And that's what I want people to understand. People that use a food pantry, just because you have everything, they're not taking everything. They are only taking what they need and what they will use at home. So for example, let's just say I'm walking by and I can take 10 items, but out of those 10 items, maybe 8 only applies to me. They are leaving the other 2 items behind because they know they are not eating it or they're not going to eat it.
You may have already touched on this a little bit, but what do you wish that people understood about food insecurity among immigrant and refugee communities?
Oh, well, there's a lot, right? But I would say that the most important thing is for people to understand that everyone is a human. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, and that we don't assume that people that are attending food pantries, no matter where they're from, refugees or immigrants or anyone, that they are using the system. I want people to understand that people that are coming here are hardworking individuals that are just trying to make ends meet. And they're just wanting a little bit of support while the winter is hard for them because they either work construction or while the restaurant business is slow or while they got laid off or while they had a vehicle that broke down. I mean, we just need to understand that people are really thankful for what they're getting, and they're not using the system. They are really, truly just using what they need at that moment. And what they want is to find a better job so they can go ahead and move on. Anybody in that food insecurity line, they are not proud to be there. And we need to treat them with respect and dignity, just like you would want to be treated if you were ever in that situation.
So let's talk a little bit about how this came to be, how this came to happen. How was it funded? Whose idea was this?
Well, it was several of us coming together, but definitely Global Neighbors and Knock and Drop Iowa working things out, making sure that could we push this out under the Global Neighbors umbrella, which is, definitely fits, the Global Neighbors. And so we decided this was a great proposal to present. And so it was presented to Polk County Board of Supervisors, and they decided that the North Side Food Pantry space would be great because it was underutilized. It wasn't used as much as it should be. And so that was a space that we could go into and bring in the families. And it was just an initiative from everyone wanting to come together, DMARC Food Bank of Iowa. And so it just worked out perfectly. And now we're serving, like I said, in our first week, we were really all shocked, 400 households. And in the month of February, we pushed out, it was around 1,755 households with 8,316 individuals being serviced through those households.
Those are quite some numbers. You said you were shocked by them. What were you expecting? And then why do you think the numbers were so high?
I think the numbers are high, at least from what we've heard. We understand that the SNAP application has become complicated. We've also heard from individuals that some of their assistance has been stolen. Their food stamps were stolen, but they're not being provided again. So basically, if they're stolen, they're not given to them until the following month. At least that's the information we've been receiving from families that are coming through. We've also heard families, just struggling. Just things at the supermarket are really expensive. And we all know that, right? Like, unfortunately, some of the families are unable to purchase everything that they need. And so they're coming to a food pantry to use it because they need to help each other out. Just 2 seniors yesterday, like I was telling you, one of them specifically said, I'm on Social Security. I can barely make ends meet. So at the beginning of the month, I take out my money so I can stretch it as much as I can, pay the bills, do this. And I love the fact that I can come here and get anytime food, because the last time you had a meatloaf and mashed potatoes that was donated through Food Rescue, and that was my dinner that night. And so that's the reason why we're making this happen, is because we want everyone, our seniors, everyone that needs it, to be able to receive that food that is very much needed, instead of going to waste, providing it for them. And it's just complicated right now for a lot of families trying to make ends meet.
We are able to bring you great conversations like this because of support from our sponsors. We will get more from Zuli after the break, but let's take a minute and learn how Mom's Meals is impacting food security in Iowa.
This week's Hunger Insight is presented by Mom's Meals.
Zuli, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you and how you got into the fight against food insecurity.
Well, I started on March 24th of 2020, as I was just sharing with you a little bit earlier ago. And it started because I actually work full time, and where I work, I was listening to families come through and saying, hey, my job is laying me off. It's COVID time, and, I got sick and I just can't make things happen. And so I started calling food pantries around and realized that there was a gap. There was a gap in the food that people were receiving. And so I remember that I took an initiative by raising funds, collecting food, how people can receive what they were needing. I'm very much of a fresh produce type of food pantry. I want to provide as much fresh produce as I can versus the canned or boxed food. And so I started doing that initiative out of the trunk of my vehicle. Then I remember I started feeding more families out of my garage. And then someone came to me and said, why don't you start a nonprofit? And I said, how do you want me to run a nonprofit if I work full time? They're like, well, you're already doing it. You're doing the work already. Except that if you get to start a nonprofit with your 501c3, you'll be able to receive more support. So I thought about it, and by September of 2020, we received our nonprofit status. And ever since then, we've just been growing. We've been working with other food insecurity people and organizations to add things to their food pantry, listening to a different perspective of what is needed. And I get it, a lot of people have a lot of bread. We also have a lot of bread, but we need to start thinking outside of the box. Does everybody really eat bread? Does everybody really need all that bread? Why? Because if we're saying people are sick, people have diabetes, people have high blood pressure, eating all that bread isn't healthy. Let's try to focus on getting more fresh produce out there to help as many families and children to be healthier. And so that has been my initiative from the beginning, is making sure that we can provide more fresh produce. And we are providing way more fresh produce than what we used to be able to provide, because we have the support of both DMARC and Food Bank of Iowa that are supporting that initiative as well.
How do you get fresh produce?
So there's several ways. It just depends. If we have grant funds, then we purchase additional fresh produce that are not provided. Some of it, we get it from Food Bank of Iowa on a weekly basis. We get some from DMARC. We get some from Food Rescue, because, we love the fact that we're getting a lot of fresh produce from our food rescue that we receive from either, example, Walmart or Trader Joe's or Capital City Fruits. And so it just depends what we have, but we're really working with local farmers to try to figure out how we can support them to be able to receive fresh produce and be able to purchase it through our grant funding.
I understand that there's other services offered at the multicultural welcome pantry site. Can you talk a little bit about what those are and why it's important to have a multifaceted approach?
So we do have a partnership with United Way, where we have a community health navigator that is for Global Neighbors and Knock and Drop Iowa. And our community health navigator, Priscilla, she is there. She does make appointments, and it just depends what the person or the family may need. For example, it could be as easy as, I am looking for diapers. And let's just say we don't have diapers at the food pantry, but we have diapers under a different grant. So then they sign up, and then if we have funding for those diapers, we can go ahead and provide it. Another example is, I received this bill and now I have this application that I just don't know how to fill out or what they're needing, because it is complicated, right? So maybe she'll guide them on how that is done, or who they can talk to at that clinic, because we have a lot of connections. Working with Impact, we sometimes may have a family that says, I'm on the verge of my energy bill being disconnected. So we have a connection with Impact. We'll email them and say, this family needs an emergency right now. And if there's funding, then Impact will contact them directly. So there's a lot of things that we're still able to provide depending on what resources are out there. But we're working on that to try to figure out what is needed.
So this navigator is really looking at, the underlying causes of food insecurity and trying to eradicate and address those.
That is correct. And as we all know, if you're in food insecurity, if you're in the food pantry line, we know that that's just one problem you're having, right? That we know that is one issue you're dealing with. You probably have way more on your plate. And there are families that will come and say, I just need it for this week. We've had moms that say, I'm going back to work full time now, so I won't come here anymore. It's basically like a graduation. They're going through this situation and now they're done. But there's other individuals that have other issues, and that's where this community health navigator comes into play. Not only is she taking in the data to report back to United Way of what is out there under the food insecurity umbrella, but also trying to figure out what else can we do to get you out of this food insecurity line?
As someone who is on the front lines of fighting insecurity, what would you say is the most challenging part of this fight right now?
I don't think I can pinpoint one specific thing, to be honest with you. But definitely I would say, the SNAP benefits is something that is hitting us really hard. And I think that is creating more of a food insecurity line out there that is not really needed. I mean, if we could make that process a little bit much, easier to navigate, I think it would help a lot of issues that we have out there too.
So I've heard that there's more restrictions on foods that people can buy under SNAP. Is that some of the obstacles that people are confronting right now?
Yes, those are definitely some of the obstacles. We have to understand that just looking at a senior person, right? We're asking them to go buy all this to cook it at home versus the senior that we heard his story yesterday. It was beneficial for him to get a cooked meal that had meatloaf and mashed potatoes that came from a food rescue. Why? It's only him in the household. So why would he cook a whole meal and now we're going to force him to eat that for how many days, right? Because how many of us can truly cook for just one person? It makes it very difficult. And so for him, it's making it difficult for him to go out and buy, a meat enough to do a whole meatloaf. Is that what he wants to do? Let's say, okay, now you're telling him to freeze it and put it in the freezer. Now he's got to buy freezer, Ziploc bags or whatever the case may be. Who's going to cover that? Right. And so we have to look at all these extra costs that are being added because we are putting barriers on certain things. Maybe this senior, it worked for him to just buy a box of already cooked stuff. And then that way he can just put it in the microwave and eat it versus now we are saying, nope, you're not going to be able to do certain items under this. Maybe I'm diabetic and I need a Coke. We're now saying that we don't want that sugar stuff, because it's not healthy. Well, unfortunately, if we look at the previous trend, we weren't that healthy before. We didn't provide a ton of fresh produce. We didn't provide the items that are needed. A lot of the items that are provided are high sodium and things that are not good for us. And so now when you're at an age where you need to eat healthier, but the whole time that things that were provided or were pushed out there were not the healthier items. If you look at things, I think now everybody's more concerned of trying to eat healthier and making sure that we make those healthier choices. The commercials are telling you, let's eat healthier. The doctors are all really, really pushing. I know of a program that they provide a bag of fresh produce from a doctor's office, depending on what you're doing. I know that Iowa Heart Association is doing a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of programs out there that are really pushing that fresh produce and healthier lifestyle. Versus before, let's go back when the seniors were younger. That was not the case. And so now we're saying, oh, no, you can't have that sugar drink because it's not under our guidelines.
Well, thank you so much, Zuli, for telling me about the Global Neighbors Multicultural Welcome Pantry, as well as the deeper issues surrounding food insecurity in our area. Thank you to our viewers for tuning in. For more information, you can go to iowastopshunger.com. And thank you. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.